I used to work at a hospital, often taking night shifts. Every night, the silence of the hospital corridors would envelop me, and due to exhaustion, I would sometimes start having strange visions. However, what I experienced that night transcended the boundaries of reality. Around 3 in the morning, I went to the vending machine to grab a snack. The sound of my footsteps echoing down the corridor was my only company. Next to the vending machine, there was a glass door that led to the cafeteria. As I gazed into the door, my hair stood on end. I distinctly saw someone entering through the door, but after they entered, they vanished. The lights inside were dim, and the fact that the expected sensors didn't respond was odd. I remembered that the sensor-activated lights in the cafeteria would turn on when someone entered. But this time, the lights remained off, and the inside was still dark. Summoning the courage, I cautiously walked towards the door. Through the glass, I saw people walking inside, but it wasn't normal. They appeared to be walking directly into a wall, their steps gradually slowing until they disappeared into the wall. My eyes widened, my heart started pounding rapidly, and sweat began to trickle down my forehead. For a moment, I felt as if I were hypnotized and continued to watch these bizarre events unfold. The figures inside were slowly being drawn into the wall, vanishing. My eyes followed this strange sight I couldn't tear my gaze away from, and then I heard footsteps echoing down the corridor. These steps were not like those of a person, they were as if a ghostly presence was passing by. I turned toward the door, and what I saw was chilling. A dark silhouette had appeared on the other side of the glass door. Its eyes glowed like two holes, akin to a snake's eyes, and it emitted a low growl as it began to take steps towards me. With each step, I felt the ground shake, and this sound sent shivers down to my very core. In a panic, I fumbled with the door handle, trying to open it, but it was locked. At that moment, the entity behind the door was drawing closer, and its growl was growing louder. My heart was pounding as though it would leap out of my chest. I turned my gaze back inside, and what I saw made me want to scream. The figure behind the door had turned into an entirely dark shadow. With an instinctual feeling, I knew I didn't want to make contact with this entity. I started running backward, my footsteps now echoing loudly through the hospital corridor. The dark entity was chasing after me, getting closer with each step. I had never run so fast in my life. The noise of the corridor was deafening in my ears as I passed by rooms. Finally, I reached the nurse's station and slammed the door shut. The entity rushed past the door but couldn't enter. Breathing heavily, with trembling hands, I picked up the phone in the nurse's station. I called the hospital security team and explained what had happened. They arrived, but when they searched the corridors, they found nothing, and they looked at me with bewildered eyes. After that day, I never set foot in the hospital corridors again. I couldn't comprehend what I had seen, what I had experienced. Perhaps I had observed a passage to another dimension or a dark reality through that door. But one thing was certain, the horrors of that night would haunt me for a lifetime. When I closed my eyes, those dark echoes would return. The terrifying secrets of the unknown would never leave me. As I lay awake during my night shifts, the fear would envelop me, and I knew that those dark echoes would return when my eyes closed. I didn't want to follow these dark mysteries any further, but I had no other choice. I had unlocked the door to a dreadful reality, and I had to confront it. The silence of the hospital corridors, once a source of calm and peace, was now filled not only with exhaustion, but also with the memories of that dark night. Every time I started my night shift, the ghost of that event haunted my thoughts. I shared this bizarre incident with some of my colleagues and friends at the hospital, but most of them dismissed it as a joke. Some even suggested that the experience had affected me and that I should see a psychologist. However, deep inside, I had no belief that there was a rational explanation for what I had experienced. What I had seen behind that door was something that transcended the boundaries of reality. For several weeks, I completely avoided the hospital corridors. I tried to change my shifts, but I couldn't leave behind the memory of that experience. I prayed not to encounter that dark entity in my dreams at night, or even in my daydreams. But this only allowed fear to take an even deeper hold on me. I decided to delve into the past to try to make sense of what had happened. I began to search through old records of the hospital, and eventually I found a clue. It turned out that the location where the hospital was built used to be an ancient cemetery, and some reports indicated that strange events occurred during the relocation of the cemetery. Perhaps what I had seen that night was one of the spirits of the old cemetery. This information deepened the mystery. The events during the relocation of the cemetery and the legends surrounding the ancient spirits made my investigation even more complicated. On one hand, I was trying to consider if there could be a rational explanation for the incident, but on the other hand, I had to accept that what I had experienced might be a supernatural occurrence. I was determined to further investigate and uncover the truth behind this mystery. However, this journey could lead me deeper into darkness and the unknown. But there was no turning back now, because I had no other choice but to pursue the terrifying secrets that awaited me. As I delved into the history of the cemetery, the idea that these ancient spirits might be seeking some form of retribution began to take shape in my mind. Perhaps the hospital building had been constructed by violating the cemetery, and I was experiencing some form of punishment by these spirits. I decided to test this theory and gather more information about the cemetery. Through my research, I managed to uncover details about the process of relocating the cemetery. Old records showed that during the relocation, some graves had been violated and some still remained in place. It seemed like a reflection of the mistakes made during the cemetery's relocation. Once I made my decision, I began to research the cemetery more extensively and eventually gained access to the old records of the cemetery. These records showed that the relocation had been done in a specific order, and it helped me identify the identities of the owners of the graves that were still in place. The next step was to locate the owners of the graves that still remained in the cemetery. I believed that helping these spirits find peace might be a way to resolve the situation. However, this quest brought forth more mysteries. Finding the descendants of some grave owners was a difficult task, and some graves were unrecognized recognized by any family members. I put in a great deal of effort to locate the grave owners and eventually managed to find several families. I shared with them the truths about the cemetery and told them that they might be able to help these restless spirits find peace. Some families agreed, while others remained skeptical and unwilling to believe in these events. During this research into the cemetery, I also tried to understand who the entity behind the dark door might be. Could it be a spirit connected to the cemetery? Or perhaps this entity was one of the vengeful souls connected to those involved in the cemetery's violation. These questions led me to further investigation, and eventually I found a clue. The owner of one of the graves that still remained in the cemetery told me that the dark entity was actually a guardian spirit. This spirit was there to correct the mistakes made in the cemetery and to protect the souls of the violated graves. However, this spirit may have accidentally targeted me. This explanation indicated that there might be a rational explanation for the events I had experienced, but there were still many unanswered questions. Why did the guardian spirit appear so threatening? Why did it chase after me, and why did it subject me to a terrifying experience that night? At this point, the silence of the hospital corridors was no longer a source of comfort, but rather a call to investigate the true explanation of the events. Did I truly observe a passage to another dimension or a dark reality behind that door? Perhaps the answers to these mysteries were waiting behind that door. I prepared myself to gather more information and uncover the truth. However, delving deeper into the terrifying secrets of the unknown could expose me to more danger and mysteries. Nonetheless, I was determined to uncover the horrifying secrets and find the real explanation behind this incident.